I want to welcome my next guest to Late Night in Tigard. It's John Trinh, the CEO of New Narrative. And John, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be here.
You know, the last year has been a very challenging time for pretty much everybody in the world. But tell me what that's looked like for the clients of New Narrative, and particularly in Tigard.
Sure. Now, New Narrative has been around and founded in the city of Tigard, actually, for 44 years. And our mission is from clinical care to peer programs to housing, that we provide resources for people with mental health challenges to develop the tool to thrive in the community, just not survive. Now, with the pandemic that occurred last year, I think everybody, you, myself, have been affected with COVID.
Yep.
But imagine in terms of someone who have mental health challenges or substance use disorder, that's even harder for them.
Yep.
And when we look at in terms of mental health challenges and moving towards more social distancing, telehealth, isolation becomes an issue.
I think it's becoming an issue for people that are maybe didn't have concerns or challenges with their mental health before, now do.
They do. And so we're looking forward in terms of moving out this pandemic and really re-engaging with our service recipient, moving out of isolation, work with them to do transitional employment, and really coming back to somewhat of a normal, thriving community.
Now, you volunteered to participate on our Public Safety Advisory Board that was recently formed. Tell me about why you volunteered.
Well, with the death of George Floyd, I think he really helped initiate or fire up the work that's needed to be done, really in terms of reviewing the practices and policy around safety in law enforcement. And he wasn't the first African American who died in the hands of police custody. And as an Asian American individual, as a person who worked in a behavioral health field for the past 18 years, it was a calling for me. I need to be a voice for the marginalized population. I need to be a voice for people who are disabled, in working with our law enforcement to make sure that we have a safe way to work and live within the community.
So you felt very called to participate? Yes. Well, thank you for stepping up and doing that. I do have one last question I like to ask folks is, what advice do you have for the mayor?
Well, I have to say, in terms of, I want to give kudos out to the Tigard PD. New Narrative have been working with the Tigard PD for many decades. And just to see in terms of the professionalism and the caring in working with our service recipient to make sure that we're not just throwing them in jail, make sure that we find a way to make sure that that people are successful and safe within the community. And the chief and all the staff around the PD has done a great job of that, and the work in terms of their training on critical intervention, which is important, to be able to be trained and work with folks who are mental health challenges and law enforcement so that we are safe and so that people in the interaction are safe and injuries and death doesn't occur.
So from your perspective, the Tigard Police Department's been a good or great partner on working with folks with both mental health challenges and also recovery?
Yes. And I also want to say thank you, Mayor, for your support. I know in terms of when you look at in terms of just racism itself, it's been around for centuries.
Yep.
And it's not an immediate fix. It's something that we all have to work together. I think everyone in the community can work together to really help break down the racism of not only structural, institutional, or culture. We all could be a part of this. And I'm looking forward to working with the chief. I'm looking forward to working with you, Mayor, and all the board members so that we could have a safe community that everyone can enjoy.
So I want to ask you a question. You just raised racism. What would you say as someone who works in the Tigard community, particularly with a number of different marginalized groups, what would you say to people, because I've heard this in the last year in response to some of the challenges I've given our community, what would you say to people in the Tigard community who say racism doesn't exist in Tigard?
I say that we need to really go back and look at in terms of some of the training and education about in terms of what is racism. Because
so it's an educational opportunity.
It is an educational opportunity because without really understanding where we came from and how racism got developed, it's going to be hard for us to sort of break that down. I just had one more thing in terms of just talking about in terms of mental health.
Sure.
Is that 1 in 5 Americans have mental health challenges in adults, and that the myth about mental health individuals are wrong. I encourage the community to look up mentalhealth.gov to look at those kind of myths and really to understand that people who with mental health challenges are not violent. They are not criminals. 1 out of 10.
They're people.
They're people. 1 out of when you look at in terms of people who have mental health challenges, over 10 times more mental health individual, they're 10 times more likely to be a victim of a violent crime than one who's perpetrating it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us in Late Night in Tigard.
Thank you.